Breaking tonight, new fallout from one of the ugliest political bombshells in the 2016 race as computer hackers break into the files of one of America's most respected statesmen and publish his brutal and uncensored take on the two major party candidates for president. Good evening and welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. On a day when a series of new swing state polls are creating huge news on the state of the presidential race, the ruthless theft and release of some private emails has become the big story. Those emails reportedly came from retired four-star General Colin Powell. Well, he's confirmed it now. A man with a bipartisan record, serving under 3 Republican presidents, recently voting twice to elect President Obama, and widely expected to endorse Hillary Clinton. That's why it wasn't a huge surprise when this leak started off with a Powell email from this June calling Trump a, quote, national disgrace and an international pariah. And it wasn't just Trump taking fire. Powell also hammered General Michael Flynn. He's one of Mr. Trump's leading foreign policy advisors, and he is here live tonight to respond. But then we saw some reporting on a scathing email from 2014 about the Clintons. General Powell writing, quote, I would rather not have to vote for her, although she's a friend I respect. A 70-year-old person with a long track record, unbridled ambition, greedy, not transformational, with a husband still blanking bimbos at home, according to the New York Post. I love that he sources. Even in his private emails, he sources on the blanking of the bimbos. In moments, we'll be joined by Fox News digital politics editor Chris Stirewalt, along with Dana Perino, who's co-host of The Five and a former colleague of General Powell's. Awkward. But first, we go to Trace Gallagher with our investigation into how this story unfolded today. Trace?
Megyn, the 2 years' worth of emails were stolen from Colin Powell's Gmail account and given to an anonymously run website called DC Leaks, which has a history of publishing hacked political emails and reportedly has ties to Russian intelligence services. There are several emails where Colin Powell pushes back against what he calls Hillary Clinton's attempt to blame him for her email scandal, quoting, I told her staff 3 times not to try that gambit. I had to throw a mini tantrum at a Hamptons party to get their attention. She keeps tripping into these character minefields. Powell says he made it crystal clear to Mrs. Clinton that he never set up a private server while he was Secretary of State and always used a government computer for classified documents. Quoting again, they are going to blank up the legitimate and necessary use of emails with friggin' records rules. Everything HRC touches, she kind of screws up with hubris. Colin Powell also discussed Hillary Clinton's health. In an email conversation with Democratic mega donor Jeffrey Leeds, Powell writes, quote, on HDTV, she doesn't look good. She is working herself to death. Mr. Leeds responds by saying that Rhode Island Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse told him that he and Clinton gave, quote, speeches at the same event a few months back, and she could barely climb the podium steps. Jeffrey Leeds also sent a number of emails to Colin Powell detailing Hillary and Bill Clinton's dislike of President Obama. Powell also goes after Donald Trump, telling a journalist earlier this summer that Trump, quote, is in the process of destroying himself. No need for Dems to attack him. Later, Powell complains to another reporter about giving Trump free media, quote, you guys are playing his game. You are his oxygen. And saying, quote, to go on and call him an idiot just emboldens him. Powell also called Trump a racist for his birther comments against President Obama. The Trump campaign has not responded to our calls for comment. The Clinton campaign has chosen not to comment. All these emails are clearly more critical of the Clintons than of Donald Trump. But as CNBC points out, the primary headline of the day was Colin Powell calls Donald Trump a national disgrace. Megyn.
Wow. Trace, thank you. Joining us now, Chris Stirewalt and Dana Perino. Great to see you both. Wow. Lot to unpack in there.
Yeah.
You know, whereupon half the American electorate said, I'm voting for Colin Powell.
Right.
However, it's not without controversy. He clearly hates them both, but seems ready to vote for her. What's your biggest takeaway?
Look, it's not surprising that Colin Powell would feel the way he does about Donald Trump. But it is surprising that the amount of venom, the amount of resentment that he has for the Clintons. And I think, look, frankly, Colin Powell speaking for a big swath of the electorate. And we see this in poll after poll, that 35, 40% of Americans go, I don't like this election. Can I have a do-over on this, please? And for the people that say, on the one side, I've got a person who has a track record that I find abhorrent, and on the other side, I have a person who I find abhorrent personally. So what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And Powell speaks to that frustration.
Is that why this became so big, Dana? Because obviously Colin Powell's, got a long history of serving our country. The man's 79 years old. But it's the brutal honesty in these emails and the fact that he taps into the narrative you hear so often, perhaps in less colorful terms, about these two candidates from people who are dissatisfied with the choices this election.
Well, I am amazed that General Powell, who is, by all accounts, a great statesman, who is then dragged into this news cycle and into this election when his private emails were hacked, and now they're leading the Kelly file. That is a big deal. And I think that both the Trump campaign and the Clinton campaign are very smart. I wouldn't comment either. I would absolutely try to let it go. I might even send him a note saying, we're sorry that happened to you. And leave it at that.
It helps Powell, though.
How does it help Powell?
Because
Powell doesn't need help.
It helps Powell in this way, which is Hillary Clinton did him dirty. She went out and said basically, oh,
he did it, and he told me to do it.
I didn't mean to use the illicit. And he called her on that. But this is like calling her on it, and then it's like, and flip the coffee table over in her lap, and the wine goes on. I was standing up and I knocked it over.
But what about? So I mean, it's obviously bad for Hillary, because you can see that even though he may be prepared to vote for her, he does not think much of her. Talking about the character moments and how she could barely climb the podium steps. That exchange he had with somebody, that's not his words; those are incoming to him. The character minefield she repeatedly gets to.
Hubris.
But on Trump, it's his birther movement was racist. He's a national disgrace. He's an international pariah. Colin Powell is a Republican. I mean, he says the Republican Party left him a long time ago, but he's more Republican than he's Democrat. Why is that not harmful to Trump?
It is. The birther thing continues to be harmful for Trump. Never forget that Trump's position as a Republican nominee is owed in part, and probably some large part, to the notoriety he gained by claiming that the president, or saying that he believed that the president probably was not born in the United States and was lying about his nativity. That's something that helped Donald Trump get on the front page and stay there, and it will continue to hurt him with a considerable portion of voters.
Do you feel, I know you do, a little uncomfortable about discussing the content of these emails at all? It's like dining on the carcass of the man's dead privacy rights.
Okay, you might remember this because you're from West Virginia.
Thank you.
Somebody from West Virginia. Do you remember party lines?
Yeah.
Party line phone. So
we didn't have
in Newcastle,
one,
Wyoming, when I was growing up, there was a party line phone. So
is that how you two met?
No. We didn't stretch across that far. But so my grandmother, if the phone would ring once for her, twice for my aunt, 3 times for my other aunt, another phone guy down the road, whatever, and there was different rings. And if you picked up and you listened, that was like the worst thing you could do. That was absolutely not allowed, but you still kind of wanted to do it. That's how I feel in talking about these emails. Like, you don't pick up the party line phone.
Yeah.
And we'll get burned one day when they put out fake emails, when one of these groups puts out some fake emails, and it gets out there, and there'll be...
Well, we were very hesitant to do the story until we saw him confirm.
Right, once he confirmed it.
It's like, okay, well...
I guess he has to own it.
I know, and now it's out there.
And boy, frankly, does he have a way with words.
He's very loquacious in these emails. He goes on and on. He should just pick up the phone every once in a while.
Expletive.
Great to see you both. Thank you. So, as we reported moments ago, General Powell did not just reserve his criticism for Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. He also went after a frequent guest here on the Kelly File and a Donald Trump advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Powell writing, quote, "Flynn got fired as head of the DIA. I asked why Flynn got fired. Abusive with staff, didn't listen, worked against policy, bad management, etc. He has been and was right-wing nutty ever since." Joining us now to respond, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who's the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the intelligence arm of the U.S. military. He's also author of The Field of Fight, How We Can Win the Global War Against Radical Islam and Its Allies. General, good to see you.
Hi, Megan.
Your reaction to General Powell's thoughts?
Yeah, right-wing nutty, and I think he called me a jerk, too. I've actually been called worse things by my little sister. I would just tell you, this is another Secretary of State, and another individual who has had their email hacked. I mean, what are we learning from this, Megan? I mean, and I'm going to tell you what, more to come, and the fact, the business with, not knowing whether or not, nation states have the 33,000 or what Colin Powell has said. I mean, when are people going to learn that there are threats out there that are going to continue to hack their email? I've said I would love to have my emails hacked, and people have. I know that they've tried it, because I'm not disparaging people in my emails. I'm being very honest, very blunt about what I say publicly is what I say in my private email communications. I don't screw around like that, because I was taught as a young kid by my father to treat others like you like to be treated, and that's the golden rule. And Colin Powell, I mean, he's an amazing guy, amazing service, but he's actually, as a footnote in history, he's going to be always struggling for his credibility because of the statement that he made to the United Nations that brought us into the war in Iraq. And I'll tell you what, I mean, when I think about some of the dumb decisions that have been made over the years by people who have lived in the bubble of Washington, D.C., we just can't have that anymore. And frankly, what he said about Hillary Clinton, what he said about Trump, whatever. At this stage, we have such bigger issues to deal with in this country.
Absolutely,
going forward.
It is extraordinary to hear such frank discussion from somebody like that. Let me ask you, though, do you think this was Russia? I mean, do you think Russia is behind the DNC hack and this hack? And if so, why?
Well, who would know would be the White House would know if that was the case, and certainly those in our intelligence community would know if that is the case. I really don't know. What I know
is that. Why would they go after Colin Powell?
Well, hey, everybody that's a highly visible person, when somebody finds that kind of, sort of titillating, whatever you want to call it, information, it's publicly, they're going to make it publicly available. I mean, people have got to come to grips with their emails, and those that are high visibility people. He's a high visibility person. He obviously said some really mean things. I mean, at the end of the day, he said some really mean things. Now, he thought that they were private, but Megan, nothing is private when you are a target of whether it's an anonymous group or whether it's a nation state. I don't know whether it's Russia, but it could be a whole bunch of countries.
Well, I've said many times, in 2016 America, it's no longer enough to pretend. You actually have to be a good person. They will find out if you're not. It's
come
over.
on.
Forget it. General,
I feel sorry for him. I really feel sorry for him, because I don't agree with what Dana and Chris said. I mean, I feel bad for him, because he had a great he had a reputation, but you know what?
No.
Yeah, whatever.
Fiddly dee.
No. Okay, I got to go. It's great to see you, General.
Great. Thank you.
A pleasure. By the way, Chris and Dana will be together again this Sunday. Look at that. Aren't they adorable? And every Sunday through Election Day. Yes, that's nice. That's nice. 5 p.m. on their new show. It's just called?
I'll tell you what.
There we go.
That's not how you say it.
How do you say it?
You say it.
I say, I'll tell you what.
There we go. Don't miss that. I'll be watching that Sunday night at 5. Set your DVR right now so you don't miss it. Because Dana only goes on TV at 5. That's it.
You made it possible. It wouldn't happen if you
I brought
put
them
us
together. I am. I'm a little matchmaker. Plus, we've got breaking news tonight on that stunning series of new polls out today and what it could mean for the White House race. This is big, what happened today in the polling. Tucker Carlson and Ben Domenech are here next to explain what we're seeing and why. And then breaking news tonight on Hillary Clinton's health and Donald Trump's medical exam. We have got the details along with Roland Martin and Herman Cain to show us how this could play with the voters. Don't go away.